here and to be moving with you. Before we come onto our backs, you're probably going to want a chair, or you're definitely going to want a chair at the end of class, so maybe grab that now. And then I also want to show you one thing that we're going to do on our backs that might be a little bit challenging to see from your back. So we're going to at some point bring our elbows as close as they'll come, and if they don't come together, you can put a block. And we're going to try to keep our arms together as we go up and down while we're on our back, but it's not so much over your head. So you're not trying to go over your head when you're lying on your back. You're just trying to go straight back behind you and back down. So just keep that in mind, and we can go ahead and come onto our backs. Something under your head, a rolled up towel, a block. And then we're going to do two different versions of our soles of feet together, knees open. We're going to start with our feet kind of as far as we can get them away from us and still keep them together. And then we'll do one version closer. So feel free to use any rolled up towels you have, extra blocks you have, and to stack stuff underneath your thighs or your knees, just to allow your body to relax a little bit more. But come onto your back. Start sliding your feet away from you, but keeping them together and your knees still dropping over out to the side, and then adjust your props as necessary. You want to tilt your pelvis into neutral. So if your waist flattens down, tilt your pelvis so your tailbone comes down. You have that subtle lift behind your waist. And then again, just make sure you're putting your props where your thighs can really relax and open. And let's just take a few breaths here. Feel your shoulders get wide on the mat. And you're trying to somewhat keep the soles of your feet together, but at the same time relax any clenching that's going on around your thighs and your hips. And it's interesting, if you really feel when you push your feet together, you'll feel different parts of your muscles engage closer to the thighs and the hips. So you can feel over time how connected your feet are to how the muscles in your thighs and your hips work. And so one of the reasons we want our feet to be awake is because it helps improve this connection to how our hips and our thighs function. All right, you can just stay here and take a few more breaths, or if you're ready to add in some arm movement, hover your arms over the floor with your palms up, and just start to sweep your arms up and down by your sides a little bit. Think of, as your arms go up, keeping your front ribs relaxed down. You can always lift your head a little bit higher or put something underneath your shoulder blades. And if you've been doing this a long time, start noticing not only do your ribs thrust up, but does one side thrust up more than the other? Like for me, it's my left side. So I try to soften that side down a little bit more without force. Feel your upper back and your chest muscles get wide. Being very present with your breath. And then retune into your legs. Are they clenching? Try to soften around the thighs, the buttocks muscles a little bit. Take a few more like this. And then let your arms relax and scoot your feet in much closer to you. You can go in as close as you feel comfortable, soles of the feet together, knees open out to the sides. Again, find support for under your thighs so you can really relax and your pelvis tilts into neutral. And then let's go into, and this is where you might want a pillow or a block between your arms if they don't come together. Bring your elbows together, bent, your palms facing you like you're reading a magazine or a book. And then just see without your ribs lifting up. So ribs stay relaxed down, tailbone stays down. Try to take your arms straight overhead any amount and then bring them back down. Feeling the soles of the feet connect, feeling relaxation around the thigh muscles, around the hips. few more like this. Really check on those ribs because that will make all the difference for how much of your shoulder muscles you're using or not using. All right, and then release your arms, lift your legs up, grab your strap or whatever you use for a strap, and then cross your right ankle over your left knee. Wrap the strap around the back of your left thigh. And then we're just going to lift that left thigh up so much that our pelvis doesn't tuck under. So we're trying to keep our tailbone down. You can gently flex your right ankle, keeping your spine centered so you're not rolling to one side. And we're actually going to work with the left foot. So lift that ankle up so it's in line with your knee. And let's point and flex, point and flex, point and flex, point and flex. And then how about gently twisting the ankle side to side and trying just to move at the ankle. The rest of the leg isn't moving. You can always pull your thigh bones in a little closer as long as your tailbone stays down. And then how about spreading all your toes out any amount, as wide as they'll go. And then how about trying to point your big toe forward and your little toes back, and then switch little toes forward, big toe back. And just take your time trying to spread your toes and work on those two things, or you can go back and forth between the two, little toes and big toes switching. Waking up the muscles in your feet. Good thing to do any time of the day. And then let's switch sides. So put that left foot down, uncross the right ankle, left ankle over the right knee, strap goes behind the right thigh, keep your spine centered, gently flex your left ankle, lift your thighs in without flattening your waist onto the floor, so just thighs in as opposed to the spine rolling in. Lift your right foot as high as your left or right knee, and then let's point and flex, point and flex, point and flex, point and flex, and then slowly twist your ankle a little side to side. Try to keep your thigh bone pretty steady. So it's just your ankle. Inner arch goes forward, outer edge of the foot goes forward. Center your spine if you start to roll onto one hip. And then pause and try to spread your toes out any amount. So sometimes if you lift the foot higher and look at it, it helps to see what you're doing. And then you can try to point your big toe forward, pull your little toes back, and then you can switch. And then if possible, you can go back and forth between the two. Letting your breath flow. All right, and then let that foot come down, uncross your left ankle, release the strap, and now we're going to cross our right ankle in front of our left ankle and walk your feet as far away from each other as you can. Over time, it will take time, but over time you'll be able to cross higher and higher and higher on your shins, where eventually you'll get closer to your knees. If your hips and your knees open very easily, work with a neutral ankle. Flex your ankle and push your inner arches forward a little bit as your thighs drop open. This is another great pose if you'd like to put some towels or some blocks under the sides of your thighs. That's a great idea. Just really let your thighs relax open here. Interlace your right pinky finger on the bottom. Press up to the ceiling. And let's circle our thumbs here, keeping that nice even interlace. Take your time, circle slowly, and then pause and circle your thumbs in the other direction. And then release your hands, and let's switch the crossing of our legs. Lift your knees up nice and slowly. Cross your left ankle in front of your right. Walk your feet in opposite directions of each other. Go as far as you can. Work with a flex ankle, and then let your thighs drop open any amount. And then from here, Cross your left pinky finger on the bottom, press up towards the ceiling a little bit lower than your face. Keep that even interlace and circle your thumbs around here. Keep relaxing your thighs open. And one thing I didn't mention though, if your thighs are here and you just let them drop open fast, you want to try to get in the habit of really letting your thighs drop open really slowly. And then pause and circle your thumbs in the other direction. Relaxing around your thigh muscles, your hips, the front of your thighs. Good. And then release your fingers and you can lift your feet up and separate your feet hip distance apart. Now you might want to take whatever you have underneath your head because we're going to do bridge lifts with the outer edges of your feet straight, your ankles under the front of your knees. Push down into the entire sole of your foot, lift your hips up. At first, once you lift up, you can see if you're clenching anything and try to relax it. And then over time, as you go up and down, you're trying to lift and lower without any clenching. So just see if one particular buttocks cheek is clenching, if one thigh is clenching, it might be the outer thigh, it might be the inner thigh. And just lift and lower here. And try to feel as you go higher with your hips, feel that length in the front of your hips and the front of your thighs. All right, next time your hips go up, pause. Hips stay up in the air. Try to feel like they're even. One hip is not dropping down. Press equally through the soles of the feet. Your knees are hip distance apart. Relaxing any clenching or the buttocks muscles clenching. And then lower your hips down. You can slide back whatever was under your head. Extend your left leg long, bring your right hand to your right ribs, bend your right knee, lift your foot in the air, and then just turn from the waist and pelvis. So try to keep your right ribs on the mat as you turn from the waist and pelvis. And we're just going to do a moment here on each side. Bring that right leg back, extend it long, bend your left knee, left hand on left rib cage, right hand reaches across. Just turn from the waist and the pelvis. So getting a little bit of a spinal twist here. And then unwind and bring that foot back, bring that knee down, and you can bend both of your knees. And then from here, we're going to do a micro bridge pose. Actually, before we do that, let's do something in between. So let's do, if this doesn't work for you, skip the leg cross, but cross your right ankle over your left knee, and then see if you can get your left foot into the air and wrap your strap around the ball of your foot. And if this is not comfortable with your right ankle crossed over your left knee, then just put your right leg on the ground. But you're still trying to tilt your tailbone down as you maybe bring your thigh bone in closer to you. Center your hips, flex your ankle. You can gently open your right thigh away from you. You can even roll a tiny little bit side to side, putting the weight a little bit on one side of your spine and then a little bit on the other side of your spine. And then let's switch sides. So release the strap, uncross your right ankle, cross your left ankle over, reach that leg into the air, try to loop that strap around the ball of your right foot, and then tilt your tailbone down. Feel that natural lift of the waist. Once the waist is lifted, you can see if your thigh can come back in without flattening your waist. You can gently open your left thigh away from you a little bit. You can stay steady on the center of your spine or roll your weight a little bit to one side of your spine and a little bit to the other side of your spine. Never forcing anything. All right, and then release that strap, uncross. And so now we're going to do what's called mini bridge lifts, but they're different because when we lift into a bridge, we often lead with our pubic bone, even though the front of our pelvis is flat here. So what I'd like you to do is try to keep this crease in between your thigh and your pelvis with your feet under your ankles under your knees. Barely lift your buttocks up off the floor, but notice if your pubic bone wants to lift up. Kind of keep your pubic bone down, keep this crease in your hips so your buttocks is up, but without tucking your pelvis under at all. And you're just getting it high enough that your hands can barely slide under your buttocks. So we're not trying to lift very high. So just try to do that a few times. You can keep the block under your head or take it off. And every time you lift your buttocks up off the floor, it's kind of like you're tilting your tailbone down, like you're trying to come back to a neutral pelvis when you're on your back. And very small, you're just lifting and lowering. But keeping your pelvis in this position will use slightly different muscles around your hips and your thighs. And then next time you lift up, you're going to hold. You can even keep your hands under your pelvis or keep your hands on the front of the pelvis and try to keep it flat. And then press down through the sole of your left foot and lift and lower your right foot just a tiny bit off the floor. But the ultimate goal is to lift and lower without your hips tilting to one side. So you're trying to keep your hips steady as you lift and lower one foot up off the floor. And this shows a lot about our endurance in our hip and thigh muscles when we're walking, because we don't want our hips dropping down to one side. So you're going for progress, not perfection. And you'll probably notice a lot of work in the opposite thigh and the buttocks. You can drop your buttocks down for a moment, bring it back up, tilt your tailbone and pubic bone down, but your hips are still lifted up, and then push into the sole of the right foot and lift and lower the left foot. And you should feel a lot of firing around the back of your right thigh, your buttocks, but try not to let your hips, one, drop down or pop out to the side. Try to keep your hips and your ribs very even as you lift and lower the left foot. Great for creating stability in your walking pattern. All right, and then lower your hips down, and let's just take a quick twist again on each side. Extend your left leg long, bend your right knee, keeping the right ribs down, turn from the pelvis and the waist. Unwind, extend the right leg long, bring the left knee up, left hand to left rib cage, turn from the pelvis and waist over to the right. And then unwind and bend your knees. And so if it's uncomfortable to stretch your legs into the air, or when you stretch them into the air, you find that you really have to bend your knees or they really want to go forward, use something under your hips, like a block or a stack of thick towels, and it'll be a little bit easier to straighten your legs and let them drop in towards you a little bit. So feel free to use something under your hips. You don't have to if your legs straighten all the way and it's easy to keep them up without feeling any part is working more than the other. And then flex your ankles there and rotate your thigh bones all the way one way, all the way the other way. But as you rotate, it's common that the knees will want to go into a slight knee bend. So try to keep extending up through the inner and outer thighs as you rotate. Breathing here. And my allergies are acting up a little bit for some reason, so I might end up telling you to breathe more because I'm telling myself to breathe more. Keep reaching up through the inner and outer thighs. How about rotating out and holding? And of course, if you're not used to doing this, oh my goodness, if you haven't done this in a while, it can be pretty intense. So feel free to put your legs down, take a break. And then how about rotating the other way and stretching up through the outer thigh, through the inner thigh, through the back of the thigh. And then bring your legs back to center, place your feet down, take out anything that's under your hips, cross your right ankle back in front of your left ankle, walk your feet as far away from each other as you can, If your thighs open very easily, maybe work with a neutral ankle. And then you can stay here, or you can choose a second option, which is to lift up your front foot, put it below your knee, not on your knee, so on your lower leg with a flexed ankle. And if you're going to do this version, drop that right knee open really slowly. So maybe your right foot rests on your left lower leg. And then interlace your right pinky finger on the bottom, press up towards the ceiling, spread the thumbs out away from each other. Think of your ribs staying relaxed down as you slowly take your hands overhead. If your fingers start to split apart or your thumbs start to come together or your ribs start to lift up, just stay there. Breathing. Relaxing around the hips and the thigh muscles. And then slowly come up with your hands and switch the crossing of your legs, left ankle in front of right. Walk your feet as far away from each other as you can. If your hips open easily, maybe work with a neutral ankle as your thighs drop open. You can stay in this version, or you can put your left edge of your foot on your right lower leg below your knee and let your thighs drop open nice and slowly. And then interlace your left pinky finger on the bottom, press up towards the ceiling, spread your thumb out, ribs relax down, fingers stay evenly interlaced, thumbs spread apart. As you go over any amount, keep relaxing, clenching around the buttocks, around the hip muscles. And if your thighs open very easily here, and maybe even it's gotten to a point where you don't feel a lot of stretching going on or sensation in your hips, neutral ankle becomes more and more important for you. So flexing your ankle, but then oftentimes turning the inner arch of your foot forward slightly. And then slowly bring your hands back up and release your fingers and lift your legs up, and then bend your knees, roll over to one side, press yourself up. We're going to come over onto all fours. And from our hands and our knees, we'll start with a little something for our shoulders. So come on down to your forearms with your elbows right underneath your shoulders, your tailbone high in the air. If it's comfortable, tuck your toes under, ankles right behind the knees, subtle lift of the ribs without tucking the tailbone under. Reach your right arm straight ahead in front of your right shoulder. Take a couple breaths there. And then take that right arm a little bit out to the right. A little bit goes a long way. Straightening your arm as much as you can, breathing. And then pull your right arm over in front of your left hand and take a couple breaths there. All right, bring your right elbow back, reach your left arm straight ahead, palm flat on the floor. Maybe if the tailbone's nice and high up in the air, a little lift of the ribs. Take that left hand a little bit out to the left. And then take that left hand over in front of your right hand. A little lift of the ribs if they tend to sink down. Check in with your heels. Are they rolling to one side? Center your toes, the balls of your feet. All right, bring that hand back. Come on up to all fours. Spread your thumbs away from your middle fingers. Relax your belly. Let your tailbone naturally tilt up into the air. And then from here, we're going to do some rhomboid push-ups. So wrapping your elbow pits forward, your spine drops down between your two straight arms, and your upper back lifts up, your shoulder blades spread wide. For today, if you've got the rhomboid motion, I'd like you to really work on your elbow pits. So keep wrapping them forward, and if you notice they push in front of your wrists, back them up. Your arms are still straight, but without pushing your elbows in front of your wrist. Using more parts of the palms of your hands, pressing down, and then keep just working on that rotation of your upper arm bones so your elbow pits stay forward. And you can always walk your hands back a little bit so they're more under your chest instead of your shoulders if that doesn't bother your wrist at all. And a few more like that, and just recognize that As we move throughout class, this is the foundation for so many of the things we do. So you want to think belly relaxed, tailbone up, but ribs lifting up into the body, breastbone lifting up, shoulder blades nice and wide. So we'll come back to that. Walk your knees together, cross your right knee behind your left knee, split your lower legs apart from each other any amount, and then push your hips straight back. All right, come forward with your hips uncrossed, but bring your knees all the way together. Cross your left knee right behind your right knee, and then split your lower legs as far apart as they'll go comfortably, and push your hips straight back. And sometimes as you go straight back, it will tilt a little to one side, so you have to move a little bit to find where it feels like a nice sensation for your buttocks, for your hips. All right, and then bring your hips forward, uncross. You're gonna tuck your toes under behind you, and you can either sit back on your heels or you can stand up on your knees, either one. But we're gonna, with our toes tucked under behind us, we are going to rotate from our big toe to our pinky toe side of our foot. So the more your toes are tucked under, the more you'll feel the stretch on the bottom of your foot. If you are not feeling it because it's hard for your toes to be tucked under, stack your knees up on something higher. Put your knees on a couple blocks or put your knees on a towel that's rolled up. The higher your knees are, the more you'll be able to tuck your toes under. And then again, you can stay up high on your knees or you can sit back, but just roll your ankles slowly a little bit side to side. From big toe all the way to the inner edge of the big toe, to all the way slowly to the outer edge of the pinky toe. And you can always be standing up on your knees as well, knees hip distance apart, so you can roll your toes side to side there. And then how about staying with your feet turned out, so you're all the way on the pinky toe side of your foot and your arms out to your side. Let's extend and flex your wrist. Extend and flex, extend and flex, extend and flex. And then rotate your feet so you're on the big toe side of your foot. You might have to pick up your toes a little bit and roll into the very inner edge of your big toe so your heels are coming in towards each other. And then flex your wrist and hold. Feel like you're reaching out through your upper arms. If your heels have a habit of rolling away from each other, turn them back in. And then extend your wrist and straighten your fingers and reach out through the palms of your hands. Heels keep coming in towards each other, so you're on the inner edge of your big toe of your feet. Excellent, and then release your hands down. Okay, step your right foot forward into a lunge. Your back knee is gonna stay stable with your ankle right behind the knee. You can work top of the foot or toes tucked under. And then all we're gonna do is we're gonna slightly change the angle of the front leg. So we wanna work hip distance more often. It often gets a more equal stretch across the front of the thigh, but I wanna show you how just by moving your front leg, you change where you feel the stretch across the front of your back thigh. So a little at a time, because we're gonna do small increments. If you always work with your right foot right in line with your hip, just step it out a little tiny step and push your pubic bone forward. So you didn't go out very much, maybe just the width of your foot. And it just slightly changes the stretch. You always feel free to pad your left knee. And then walk your foot another little step out to the right. And just feel as you widen your legs, how that changes what you feel around your hip. Walk your right foot out another little step. Edge of the right foot is still straight. Changing how you feel the stretch on the front of the thigh. Now let's walk the foot back to hip distance apart. And now you have to stabilize yourself a little more because it's like we're going to go onto a tightrope. How about walk your foot in a step so they're a little bit closer than hip distance apart? And then how about walking your front foot in a little bit more so it's like your foot's getting closer to being in front of your knee. And then walk your foot in a little bit more. And see how that shifts how you feel across the front of your thigh. And so it doesn't have to be big, but sometimes when we're just in, go ahead and make your way back to hip distance apart. Even if you just walk your foot in a tiny bit or walk your foot out a tiny bit, it changes the geometry. Okay, let's switch sides. Start with your feet hip distance apart. Pubic bone leads the way so that it's slightly in front of the ASIS bones. Ribs relax down. Front ankle right behind front knee. Find that stretch with your legs hip distance apart where we come most often. And then a really little bit. Walk your toes out, walk your heel out so your foot is a tiny little bit wider. And so you don't need big geometry to change how you feel the pull in the muscles. In fact, the front of your thigh is only so wide, so if you go from hip distance to way out to the side, you're bypassing a lot of the stuff in between. All right, walk your foot out a tiny little bit more. And so we're just moving the front foot. Walk your foot out a tiny bit more, pubic bone forward. Walk your foot out a tiny bit more. See if you can feel how that changes the stretch across the front of that right thigh. And then take your time, heel toe your foot back in to your legs hip distance apart. And then we'll go the other direction. Heel toe your foot a little closer. So it's going to be more like a tightrope. Stabilize through your feet a little bit more. Walk your foot in a tiny bit closer. It's coming closer to in front of your knee. Walk your foot in a tiny bit closer. Very interesting how just changing the angle of the front leg really impacts that stretch on the back leg. And then go ahead and walk your foot back to hip distance apart. Tuck your back toes under and push down to step up. With your feet straight and your ankles hip distance apart, push down through your outer right hip, tuck the top of the left foot behind you. Great opportunity to put a pillow or a towel under your foot if you'd like to today. And let's rotate our ankle side to side. So our thigh bone is moving, but our hips are not moving. So we're keeping our spine steady. And when our thigh bone moves, that means our hips are moving. And we're just going slowly from the big toe side of the foot to the pinky toe side of the foot. And if anything hurts you, of course, pad your foot, but put a little bit less pressure. You don't want it to hurt. And then bring that foot back, outer edges of feet, straight ankles, hip distance. Push down through the left hip, tuck the top of the foot behind you, and then keep pelvic listing on your left leg and rotate your right thigh bone without your spine turning, without your hips turning. Oh, and the top of this foot is much tighter than the top of my other foot. So interesting how that happens. Try to relax those muscles as much as you can. And if you find a particular angle that's just really tight, instead of rolling your foot side to side, you can just stay there. All right, bring that foot back. Okay, so we're going to stand with our feet straight, our ankles hip distance apart. Hip distance is your two ASIS bones. And then you're going to watch, do your weight drift forward. You're going to back up through your thigh bones. Even if you feel like your torso goes forward a little bit, that's okay. Back your heels up over your ankles. And then from here, if you're able to, lift your kneecaps up and down, rotate your thigh bones into neutral, and check, did your feet scoot in? Are your legs still hip distance apart? And then from here, we'll just stand and we're going to do some neck stretches. But I was just thinking about, and keep working on it. Keep working if your feet are straight, if your ankles are hip distance, if you haven't gotten to the place where you can rotate your thigh bones and lift your kneecaps up and down, you want to keep working on that. But in yoga, they always teach that mountain pose. This pose is the most important. And it becomes even more important when we start aligning ourselves based on human biomechanics. And so it's just standing like this and learning to stand in a way that uses all your muscles more equally, because this is how you're going to be standing a lot of time in your life, can already start to heal and correct so many ailments you might have going on in your body. So keep working on this every day, all day long. Start with your feet straight, work there maybe for months. Then start working with your ankles hip distance apart, and then really work. You have to often work on backing your hips over your heels a lot, and then the next step will be your knees will start lifting up and down, and you rotate your thigh bones into neutral. All right, from here, drop your right ear to your right shoulder, And nod your head yes. And then bring your head up and drop your left ear to your left shoulder and just notice what's going on. Are your hips still back over your heels? If you're rotating your thigh bones into neutral, can you still lift your kneecaps up and down? And nod your head yes here. Are your ribs still relaxed down and back? And so when I first started, I practiced so much with my feet straight, my ankles hip distance apart, my hips over my heels. And now I'm realizing that because I'm able to rotate my thigh bones into neutral and lift my kneecaps pretty easily, I have to practice that to the same degree I practiced all of those other alignment cues. So just be content to start where you are. And if any alignment cue doesn't feel good on your body, let's do a calf stretch. Put the block or your rolled up towel in front of you. So now what you can start doing is you can start coming into your neutral alignment before you step up into your calf stretch. You can even work on your thigh bones rotating into neutral, and that will make a big difference of how you feel your calf stretch, and then maybe stepping your outside foot forward. So working on your alignment cues throughout the day is what's gonna change your whole body for the better. Just keep working on them step by step, step by step. Oh, and what I was saying is if any alignment cue doesn't feel good, then there's probably some movements you can do to break up muscle tension so that alignment cue starts to feel better over time. Like for instance, if it really doesn't feel good to turn your feet straight, well then don't turn your feet all the way straight, turn them in a little bit. But if you do stretches all the way around your hips over time, that will make it feel a lot better to turn your feet straight. Same thing with your legs being hip distance apart. Same thing with your hips over your heels. Okay, let's switch legs. But there's definitely a big difference in a calf stretch when your thigh bones are rotated into neutral. So if you haven't got to a point where you can rotate your thigh bones into neutral and lift your kneecaps up and down easily, hips over heels, all day long. Practice backing your hips up, backing your weight up over your heels, letting the fronts of your feet relax, letting the fronts of your thighs relax. Keep working on it. Be very consistent, very persistent, but also very kind to yourself. Because once your thigh bones get rotating into neutral, it has a big effect on your inner arches, the health of your knees, the health of your hips, your core muscles, but you can't force it. You can't do that until the front of your thighs are ready to relax. Okay, go ahead and step off there. Come on up to the top of your mat, feet straight, ankles hip distance apart. Let's rotate into a half forward fold, backing your hips up. Stay for a moment, working on feet straight, ankles hip distance, hips over heels, maybe neutral thigh bones. Sit back into a chair pose. Bring your hands down, keep your right foot forward, step your left leg back, lower your left knee. We're gonna go up into a crescent lunge without our knee going past our ankle, and then bring our hands down to the floor of the block as we slide our right leg straight, heel down, toes up in the air. And then we're gonna bend that knee, pubic bone leads the way as our arms reach up, and bring our hands down, slide our hips back, and straighten that front leg any amount. Let's do that 2 more times. Bend, arms rise, pubic bone leads the way, and then hands down, slide your hips back, heels down, toes up in the air, and bend, arms rise up, and slide your hips back. All right, with your toes straight up in the air, you're gonna rotate your thigh bone internally. Knee and toes turn in from the top of the thigh bone and pull your hips back. You're trying to keep a somewhat long spine, so if you feel like your spine is like this, bring your hands up higher. You can even work with your hands on the seat of a chair if a high block isn't high enough. And then rotate your thigh bone the other direction from the top of the thigh bone so your knees and toes turn out, and pull your hips back slightly. All right, bring your foot back to center. Go ahead and bend into that knee. Stand up in your torso. Slide your right knee back to meet your left knee. Put your right forearm down first, followed by your left. Slide your right leg back, followed by your left. Front of the pelvis flat. Sphinx curls, elbows under the shoulders. Pelvis stays flat as you curl your ribs up and let them sink down with gravity. and curl up. Feel the armpits lift up, the shoulder blades get wide, and sink down. And curl up, pelvis stays flat, and relax down, and curl up, and relax down. Okay, remember, we want that curling action when we're pushing ourselves away from the floor. Our strength comes from our core muscles, our upper abdominals lifting up, not our lower belly clenching. So walk your fists back. We did a little bit of this last week. Curl your fist in close, elbows in close. Think ribs up first as you push yourself up onto your forearms and knees. You're only going back so far that your elbows land right underneath your shoulders. And then we'll walk up with our right hand, but pay attention to the rotation of your elbow. As soon as you walk up, can you rotate that elbow pit into neutral and then your left elbow pit? And think of keeping your elbow pit forward as you bring your elbow down, right elbow, left elbow down, ribs up as you lower back down to your belly. Let's do that one more time. Fists curl in, ribs up first, push up, rotate. Let's do the right arm again first. Rotate that right elbow pit forward, followed by the left elbow pit. Keep the elbow pits rotating forward. Top of the rhomboid push-up. Step your right leg back to a plank pose, your left leg back to a plank pose. Go up and back into a down dog. Feet straight, ankles hip distance apart. Keep working on wrapping those elbow pits forward and pressing equally through the palms. Put a big bend in your knees. Get your tailbone really high in the air. And then just see, without your tailbone moving, how much can you straighten your thigh bones back. And tuning into your breath here. Press equally through the balls of the feet. You can even work on rotating your thigh bones into neutral here a little bit and lifting your kneecaps up and down here. If your legs are straight, if you're to keep your tailbone high, if you need to, keep your knees bent for a while. And then lower your knees down softly. Walk your hands back under your chest. Think top of the rhomboid push-up, and then we'll do some tricep push-ups here. Your hips don't go back at all. It's just you're bending your elbows to the floor and coming back up. And if they hit the floor, that means you're starting with your hands way in front of your chest. So back your hands up. They'll probably only go about halfway or less. Keep those elbow pits wrapping in. Try not to let the elbows pop out on the way down or on the way up. And then bring your forearms down to the ground. Walk your elbows a little bit in front of your shoulders, hips over your knees. Flip both of your palms up. Try to touch your thumbs to the floor. And if they don't touch, just see how close they get. Lift your ribs up a little and see how far you can scoot your hips back without your hands changing at all. So just see, maybe keeping your thumbs down or your thumbs twisted open. Breathing here. Good, and then bring your hips back forward. Walk up with your right hand, but wrap that elbow pit forward. Walk up with your left hand, wrap your elbow pit forward. Stand up on your knees, step your right foot forward, tuck your back toes under, push down to step up. Okay, we're gonna use something, your chair now, and whatever you'd use for a double calf stretch. You could use an extra rolled up mat. I'm gonna use a towel rolled up because it's wide enough, it's hip distance apart. But we're not gonna start with that. We're gonna start with our feet pigeon-toed, and we're gonna do heel raises, lifting and lowering our heels. The closer you stand to the chair, the easier it will be because you're trying not to pitch forward. You're trying to go as much straight up and down as you can, which is very challenging to do. Press equally through the balls of the feet as you go up and down. But you want your hips back, so it does give this appearance that you're leaning forward slightly, but you're still going as much straight up and down through your heels. And you'll know, because the more you pitch forward, the less you'll feel the work in your calves. The more you go straight up and down, the more work it will be to get your heels to come up off the floor. And you're trying to watch that your ankles are not rolling in or out to the side. You're trying to press equally through the balls of the feet so the heels pretty easily go up and down steady. It helps a lot to hold on to something. And then put your balls of your feet up pigeon-toed on whatever you're doing your double calf stretch on, and two straight legs, push your hips back. Take a couple breaths here, smooth inhales and exhales. And I'm just going to mute you for a moment. So that way I didn't blow my nose in your ear. Turn your feet out to the side, and let's lift and lower here. And be very conscious of those ankles. Try not to let them roll out. So push equally from the base of the big toe to the base of the pinky toe, and try to feel like you're going more straight up and down rather than pitching yourself forward. Ribs relax down, makes a difference. It'll make your calves work harder. All right, and then toes turned out to the side, double calf stretch. Heels down on the ground. Push your hips back, 2 straight legs. Relax the front of your thighs. All right, come up, and last but not least, outer edges of the feet very straight, and we're pushing up and going down. Trying to go straight up, but our buttock stays back, so it's not this. Our hips stay back over our heels. Push equally through the balls of the feet. And if it helps at first, watch your ankles. All right, let's put the balls of the feet up with the outer edges of the feet very straight and push your hips straight back. Great opportunity to work on neutral thigh bones. Relaxing the belly, tailbone goes up into the air. Breathing. Think more of backing your hips up and less of dropping your spine forward. Relaxing any clenching. All right, from there, let's start at the top of the mat. Tilt your pelvis into a forward fold. You might want to block nearby. Sit your hips back. Sit back into a chair pose. Keep your left foot forward. Step your right leg way back. Softly lower that knee down. Check the edge of the left foot is straight. Lead with the pubic bone without lifting the ribs. Arms up, hands down. Slide your hips back. You'll find a position of your leg where you can go back and forth pretty smoothly without moving your leg around, flexing your ankle. And come forward. Pubic bone leads the way. Hips push back, come to the back of the heel, straightening the leg. 2 more like that. Rise up and push your hips back. And rise up and push your hips back and hold from here. Checking front knee, back knee is right under hip, back ankle's right behind toes. That makes a big difference for the pressure on your knee. And then let's rotate that front thigh bone so it turns out to the side as you pull the hips back. Breathing. And rotate the thigh bone in the other direction internally, pulling the thigh bones back. Straightening the leg as much as possible. And then unwind, and from there, bend that left knee. Stand up on your knees and step your left knee back to meet your right knee. Come on down, left forearm first, right forearm, slide your left leg back, followed by your right leg. And then from here, we're gonna do cobra poses, where you slide your hands back next to your chest. Think ribs up first, pelvis flat, as you roll up nice and slowly, and come back down. Do a few more of those. Breathing. Ribs up, pelvis flat, feet flat, rolling up, and slowly roll down. Keeping the elbows pointing straight back. Curl up through the ribs as you roll up. Your spine is working more than your arms, so maybe you just work the height where you can keep your feet down and lift your hands up. Good. Bring your fist under your chest. Curl your ribs up first. Push up onto knees and forearms. Walk up with your left hand first, wrapping your elbow pit forward, followed by the right hand. Keep the elbow pits wrapping forward. Left forearm down. followed by the right forearm, fist down, slowly lower down. Think ribs up first, press up onto forearms and knees, left arm, elbow pit wraps forward, right arm. Good, keep wrapping, top of the rhomboid push-up, step your left leg back, followed by your right leg, plank pose. Go up and back to a downward facing dog. Breathing here in your downward dog. How about from your downward dog, doing a top of the foot stretch with your right foot? Tailbone up high. How about switching, feet straight, ankles hip distance, top of the foot stretch with your left foot? Of course, you can always drop down into a child's pose if you've had enough downward dog. Bring that foot down, lower your knees down slowly, hands back, thumbs open, tailbone up, ribs up, tricep push-ups. Keeping the elbows pointing straight back, trying to use more parts of the palms of the hands. It's the chest going down without the hips backing up. It's the chest going down without the ribs falling down to the floor. And then bring your forearms down, left forearm, right forearm. Walk your elbows a little in front of the shoulders. Bring the palms of your hands together. Push your hips back and lift your hands any amount over your head. Let your breath flow. And then your hands come down. Push down a little bit through your arms and legs to come up. Step your left foot forward, tuck your right toes under, push down to step up, and then come around to your chair. And you can use the seat of your chair or the back of your chair with your feet straight, ankles hip distance apart. Then the next step would be, can I work on all those cues when I'm on one leg? So maybe you just start with foot straight, ankles hip distance, and hips over heels. Eventually you start working with a neutral thigh bone as you push down through your left leg and lift your right leg into the air. And keep backing that hip up, hugging it in. Breathing. Extend long through that leg. And then switch sides. Feet straight, ankles hip distance. Before you even come up, you're checking your alignment and pushing down through your outer right hip, lifting your left leg into the air, back that right thigh bone up, hug it in. Just hugging it in is going to help you turn a little bit more into neutral rotation. Stretch long through that back leg, relax your elbows down, breathing. Let's do one more each side. Feet straight, ankles hip distance apart, rotating the thigh bones into neutral without that inner heel slipping in. Push down through the outer left hip, hug it in as you stretch the right leg back, back that hip up. And just think of like when you're pelvic lifting on one leg, how you're trying to stack all your joints. Reach back long through the back leg. And then lower that foot down, feet straight, ankles hip distance apart. And push down through the right hip, stretch the left leg back, back up, hug the hip in. And like you're doing a pelvic lift, you're trying to stack all your joints, hug your outer hip in, reach long through that back leg. And then lower the foot down, walk back 2 straight arms, 2 straight legs. And slowly come up and have a seat on a block or something on the ground. And we'll start with our feet far away from us, soles of feet together, knees open. Sit up as high as you can so that your pelvis can tilt more into neutral. That might mean a footstool. And then with your feet far away from you, you're going to go very slowly into a forward fold, if at all. So maybe it just feels good to stay sitting upright here and breathing, relaxing any clenching. And of course you can forward fold, but I can feel some sensation in my outer hips and thighs here that just my body is like perfectly okay. I don't sit in this angle a lot with my feet kind of far away and my knees opening. So my body's telling me just stay upright right now and release and relax any clenching. All right, how about scooting your feet in a tiny bit closer? We're going to try to do 2, 3, and 4. So a little bit closer. Thighs dropping open, relaxing around the tops of the thighs and the hips, rotating your pelvis upright, maybe going forward a little bit, maybe going forward a lot. Listen to your body today. It's gonna change day by day. And if you follow and work on neutral alignment, it will really teach you where your body wants to go and where it doesn't want to go. If you don't have those boundaries, that's when we tend to not realize when we're going too far or if we're always doing too little. All right, come up, slide your feet in a little closer. We're going to do one closer than this. Let your thighs drop open, hips open. Rotate your pelvis forward. You can walk your hands forward any amount. And then last one, come up, walk your feet in a little closer and rotate your pelvis forward any amount, relaxing around the thighs, the hips, the buttocks muscles, breathing. All right, come up. You're gonna stretch your feet into we're gonna do a wide V, but we're gonna do it, and I've been thinking a lot about this lately and I don't have time to go into the details, but you're gonna turn your feet out to the side and you're gonna keep your knees really bent and your feet flat, and you're just gonna try to tilt your pelvis more upright here. And again, you can walk your hands forward any amount, but this is it. Just a different position. I mean, how often do you sit like this on the floor? If never, try to do it more often. And then we're going to walk our feet out slowly. So you're just going to wiggle your feet a little bit farther out. For some people, that will allow them to still keep the sole of their foot down. For some people, they'll have to come to their heels, but the knees are still very bent. So wherever that is for you, and rotate forward from your pelvis here, and breathing. All right, wiggle your feet out a little bit more. I'm going to come onto my heels, but your knees are still bent slightly. Pelvis rotating upright. Maybe walk forward a little bit here. If your knees roll in towards you, open up through your inner thighs a little bit. It's okay if your toes turn out to the sides a little bit. And then slide your legs a little more straight, not quite all the way straight yet. Thighs dropping open, so knees and toes turn a little bit out to the sides, if anything. And then how about slowly straightening both of your legs and rotating forward from the pelvis. It's okay that the knees and toes turn a little bit behind you. And then walk yourself up and slide your legs into hip distance apart and take a little rotation here. Maybe your head drops all the way down. And then slowly roll yourself up and you're ready for your final pose, Savasana. So go ahead and set yourself up, maybe a block under your head, whatever you need to be comfortable. Lay back, let your gaze soften or your eyes gently close. Become very present with your body and with your breath. stay present with your body, your breath. Allow it to be as it is today. When you go out into the woods and you look at trees, you see all these different trees, and some of them are bent, and some of them are straight, and some of them are evergreens, and some of them are whatever. And you look at the tree and you allow it. You see why it is the way it is. You sort of understand that it didn't get enough light, and so it turned that way. And you don't get all emotional about it. You just allow it. You appreciate the tree. The minute you get near humans, you lose all that. And you are constantly saying, you're to this, or I'm to this. That judging mind comes in. And so I practice turning people into trees, which means appreciating them and myself just the way we are. If you want to just lay in your savasana longer, I always encourage that. If you're ready to move a little bit, you can reach a little through one side, wiggle a little through one part or another part of your body. When you're ready, roll over to one side, pause there, take a breath there. Really just accepting yourself where you are today. And then with a softness and ease, press yourself up to a comfortable seated position. If you always sit one way, switch it up, sit another way. Bringing your hands together at heart center in gratitude for this day. Namaste.